Mauna Kea, Native Hawaiian Culture and the 30-Meter Telescope by the Washington Post, August 5, 2015. The Mauna Kea mountain towers nearly 14,000 feet over the waves of the Pacific Ocean in Hawaii. Lush forests surround its base, while sparse clouds swirl its rocky upper slopes. A dormant volcano, Mauna Kea rises more than 6 miles above the sea floor, making it the world's tallest mountain from base to peak. Everyone treasures the mountain. Environmentalists value its unique ecology, astronomers gaze skyward from its peak, and Native Hawaiians believe that their gods live at its summit. But the spectacular mountain has become the subject of conflict. A proposal to install a $1.4 billion telescope at the top of Mauna Kea has led to a bitter fight led by the Native Hawaiian people who honor the mountain the most. On one side of this fight are scientists from some of the world's most powerful research centers. On the other are a small but determined group of activists who want to protect the sacred mountain. $1,000,000 Mountaintop View. The 30-meter telescope, TMT, is named for the diameter of its enormous light-gathering mirror. This telescope will see as much as 100 times farther and more clearly than any other telescope in the world. The TMT will allow astronomers to gaze deep into the universe past and out toward its farthest galaxies. The telescope will measure 18 stories tall and be far larger than anything on Mauna Kea's summit. Astronomers want to build the telescope on Mauna Kea's summit because the summit has very low light pollution, which will allow for greater visibility of faraway stars. Lately, the TMT's opponents have voiced their opinions very strongly, and they are gaining ground in the fight to move the telescope to another location. Hundreds of demonstrators crowded the road to the mountain's summit, waving flags and singing native songs as construction vehicles attempted to inch past them. Boulders and stone altars, or ahu, were placed in the middle of the road. Many demonstrators and activists camped at the construction site overnight. In addition to demonstrators flocking to Mauna Kea, lawsuits against the 30-meter telescope are being heard in court. Respecting ancient ties. This is not the first time that Mauna Kea has been fought over. Ever since 1968, when the first plans for a telescope were announced, activists have opposed construction on the mountain. Now there are 13 telescopes, and many Native Hawaiians believe that each one dishonors the mountain. In Hawaiian tradition, Mauna Kea is the place where the sky and the earth separated to form the heavens and where the mother and father of the Hawaiian race first met. The mountain is home to more than 250 shrines and burial sites. In the past, its summit was so revered that only high chiefs and priests were allowed to climb to the summit. Mauna Kea represents the Native Hawaiian people's ancient ties to creation itself, says Keloa Piscota. She is a Native Hawaiian activist and one of the 6 involved in bringing the court challenge to stop the TMT. For more than 10 years, Piscota worked as a technician on one of the mountain's telescopes. Meanwhile, she maintained a family shrine near the summit and led a cultural heritage group called the Mauna Kea Ahaina Hau. I've always supported astronomy, Piscota wrote. However, I do not believe that it is so much importance that it should be allowed to overtake and destroy everything else in its wake. Activists like Piscota believe the telescope will ruin the mountain's beauty and spiritual power. Astronomy is awesome. Brian Kamula Kuata is a Native Hawaiian and a graduate student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. He said that anytime Native people want their culture to be respected or to protect their holy places, they are dismissed as old-fashioned and against progress. He asserts that the Native Hawaiian people are not against progress or against science, but rather they are advocating for saving a place that is sacred to their culture and religion. The TMT is just the latest in a long line of projects that have conflicted with Native groups. Often the qualities that make these sites valuable to science, their remote location and beautiful views, are what draws Native worshippers to them in the first place. In Mauna Kea's case, some astronomers are questioning whether the telescope is really worth it. Emily Rice, an astrophysicist who has used a different telescope on the Mauna, wrote that she did not like how the project was being done. Astronomy is awesome.